Hi everyone, and welcome to another Web Talk episode here at Elemendar. My name is Renee and I'm your host. And today I am joined with Chris Evett, who is the program manager at Elemendar. So, Chris, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Enjoying the heat wave, as it were.
I know, there's so much going on at the moment. We did have rain at some point, but we need a bit more, I think, personally.
Indeed.
Okay, so as you know, we're doing this Web Talk series, and I thought I'd ask you a few questions a bit about, obviously, Read and the changes that we've had within the company, and also a bit about your role and what you do. So the first question I've got for you is, tell us a bit about your background and how that links in, I guess, your role here at Elemendar.
Sure. So I started working with the team at Elemendar right back at the beginning of when the kind of company got founded in 2017. I was, or sort of still am in degree, a kind of open source intelligence analyst, and I did a lot of tools and techniques for the defence sector, and that brought me into contact with Yorgos, Sarah and Devon, where we were starting to apply these things to a cybersecurity context. So since 2017, we worked with a lot of government stakeholders to start to say, where could we apply kind of AI tools most effectively to be able to help analysts understand and act on different threats in the cybersecurity domain. So that's what started this kind of role. And then I started to work essentially as a project manager to help do all this research and development and turn it into tools and techniques, and then apply them through Elemendar. And yeah, we did that consistently from 2017 onward. And then 2019, things started to really accelerate with Elemendar. We got through a successful funding round, started to actually take the R&D and put it into applications. And then since sort of 2020 onward, we've been putting that all into what we call the Analyst in the Loop product, and sort of moving from being in the R&D kind of more project program stuff into the more product development side of things, which is where Read slots into. And so Read then kind of bolts into the Analyst in the Loop work, which is where we can sort of start to apply all the AI tooling to help analysts. So yeah, it's really cool.
So you've definitely seen the overview of how everything's kind of just progressed as things have gone on, which is pretty interesting, to be honest, compared to like myself, for example, who's kind of seeing how things are going, but obviously at a different pace to what you've experienced. What would you say is the most interesting part about seeing a product kind of transition from being something that's so great and then going, actually, let's add something else just to make it that bit more different or unusual compared to the other ones within, I guess, the same industry?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a real challenging thing to be able to get something that's essentially kind of almost like a research question and actually turn that into an applied use case that helps people do stuff. So we really are at the edge of where you could take AI. I mean, there's all sorts of clever stuff you can do with machine learning, but then it starts to fall down and actually making a difference to someone, if that makes sense. So getting the actual tool in front of analysts who are pretty much, I wouldn't say overwhelmed, but your average CTI analyst has got a lot of stuff to work through. So I think a lot of the hard work has been finding where we can help and where we can add value, and doing that around the kind of the workflow that says, your average CTI analyst has got loads of stuff thrown at them. Let's make their lives easier by applying things like Read to be able to sort of sign and sort of tag the intelligence for them, so they can actually provide the value and turn that into an insight. It's really interesting. And our government kind of, not just government, our commercial and sort of partners, the people that sort of are seeing the applications, they're really keen and they can see the value because it just helps their analysts almost pretty much immediately. So it's a really interesting case to apply.
Definitely. Tell us a bit more about Analyst in Loop, I guess, from your perspective. I know maybe an engineer might have a different view on it, but how would you describe how this helps the process of a CTI analyst?
So it essentially takes the workflows that a CTI analyst would do on a day-to-day basis. So you sort of, a CTI analyst would sit there and take all these feeds. They take all this kind of threat intelligence, and then have to kind of process it by some technique. There's lots of kind of applications that they might use, but they may not. And this could vary on an organization by organization basis. But having analyst in the loop means essentially people grab the stuff and they process it in a single environment. But the processing is not all down to them to do lots of manual tagging and assignments and saying, okay, well, the patterns in this document are this means this. This is an example of malware. This is an example of, this is all done and suggested back to them straight away. And I think that's the slickest thing, is it's done almost immediately, and all the outputs come out very quickly as well. So like we said, you're kind of automating 95% of what a CTI analyst does manually, and that's a big thing. And it means that they can process stuff more quickly, but be able to sort of put their expertise in more immediately without having to sort of go through and do all that manual processing, which, let's face it, in any form of intelligence is a lot. A lot of people's time is spent on doing that. So leveraging AI to be able to do those bits is it's really beneficial. And a lot of what we've been doing has been the experimentation to say where is the right point in the process to put the AI. And I think we found a good place with where Reed's currently kind of fitting, and the feedback so far has been promising and very helpful as well.
Definitely. I think leading on from what you've talked about in regards to how it helps out an analyst, I guess, day-to-day life, what would you say is something which is so important for Reed to continue being as successul as it is?
Definitely. I think it is. I think feedback is the right term, and feedback's an important term kind of at every level in what we do. So there's the feedback in the kind of the overall product, how well is it working? What's the actual things like the UI doing? Is that really helping the workflow of the analyst? But feedback crucially is really important to say, how reflective are the tags being assigned to the threat intelligence? Is it right? Is the AI doing the thing that the analysts would do? So that level of feedback is really important. And that's where, we use our own kind of CTI analysts to continually work on that feedback loop between where is the human adding value and where is the AI supporting that value. So there's a lot of training required. So feedback is a very important term in that on every level, basically, from the actual tool design and the UI, but also through to how accurate are the ML processes underlying it. So, and that's ongoing. That's a constant loop, essentially, which does take a lot of our activity and our time. And the more we deploy Analyst in the loop and Reed, then the more that goes on, and the more that will always be a kind of a feature of the product in itself.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think my final question for you would probably be, what was the most exciting part about the whole process of Reed and Analyst in the Loop for yourself? Obviously, I know you've mentioned that it has been an ongoing thing, so I know excitement maybe has gone throughout, but towards this side of things.
Sure. It's a really good question, because the overall kind of operating environment for Elemendar is pretty exciting, as I'm sure you are coming to see, because being a tech startup on this journey, there is a lot to be done. So with Analyst in the Loop and Reed, it is constantly busy, because there's always stuff to do and there are always cutting edge stuff to apply to it. So the excitement comes from actually condensing what is kind of theory into practice, and that is constant and pretty consistent. It's really nice now to see it getting in front of people, to be able to sort of get their feedback, and also see people looking at it and engaging with it and go, actually, okay, cool, I can see that this is going to make my life easier. And that is a nice feeling for all the hard work that both our teams do. So just to say, here we have essentially a team of ML engineers, but also a team of devs who are constantly working very hard between each other and those two things. So to actually see that all their hard work is put into practice is great. And also what we know is on a larger product roadmap is we have all this cool stuff that's being done. And this is just the sort of the beginning of it with Reed. When we're talking about the stuff that's being done in both the teams, we're looking out for the next year or so with graphing and neural network design that's going to go behind all this stuff. Seeing all this stage of stuff that's being planned and tested is really exciting to start to sort of see it kind of implemented via these product stages. And it's very logical to say, you can see where Reed is the first phase in this that says you're implementing something that's going to help. But also this gives us kind of the foundations to put in other stuff as we go forward and other capabilities coming in. So, people are engaging now just at the beginning of the journey, and it's already adding value to them. And I think they're part of our stakeholders to help us do even more and apply even more things. So it's really great to be getting people to engage with it and start using it. So yeah, it's probably consistently exciting. Let's put it that way.
I would definitely have to agree with you on that. And to be honest, just in general, being in AI, there's so much to learn. There's always something new that comes out from, whether it's just a new product or someone finding that something doesn't work, but then you trying to work out a way on how it can. Like, there's just something else that can always be added, which I agree. AI is definitely exciting. Cybersecurity is definitely interesting. Yeah. Chris, I want to thank you so much for joining us for a Web Talk series. I hope those of you who are watching or listening, you've enjoyed the episode today, and we do have more coming, so definitely stay tuned. I have been Renee, and again, I was speaking today to Chris here at Elemendar as program manager, and I hope everyone enjoyed this episode.